Hello, and welcome along to the stream tonight. Hope everyone out there that might be listening is doing well. The plan for tonight is to carry on from where things got left off last week. I think it was last week. Trying to remember if it was last week. Let me go and check. Hello, Nils in the chat room. Good to see you. Yeah, it was last week. So last week, I did a bunch of stuff. One of those was reviewing a PR for Matthias, also known as Dev Lead, on the Cake repository. I haven't been back to finish that review, but one of the things that we did get started on was looking at what needs to happen in order to get the next version of Cake.Recipe out the door. If we go back over to github.com/Cake-Contrib and we look at Cake.Recipe, then helpfully Jericho and his Cake Addin Discoverer tool it created this issue that lists out all of the add-ins that need to be updated. Now, because of reasons, it won't keep this issue up to date, but if I hadn't done what I'd done, which I can go into if we need to, if I hadn't done what I'd done, it would have continued to keep it up to date and it would have ticked the boxes for us as we were going, but that's not going to happen anymore. So I'm going to manually keep a track of the issues or the items in this checklist, and as they get ticked off, we'll tick them off. Now, the one that I'm starting with is Cake.AppVeyor. So I've been doing some work since the last stream. I've been doing some work on updating Cake.AppVeyor. I'm going to do Cake.TransFX. That's one of the add-ins that I first created. And then there's a bit of discussion around Cake.CodeCov, Cake.Coveralls, and Cake.Coverlet. Specifically around how Cake.Recipe is going to continue to use them going forward. There are now known issues with with coveralls and publishing results to coveralls. So we're tending towards using CodeCov instead, specifically using the Cake.CodeCov add-in. It has its own issues because there's a new version of the CodeCov runner that we need to embed. I think Nils has done some work on that previously. I know that Kim, who kind of owns that add-in, has some thoughts on how that's going to work going forward as well. And then there's the Cake.Coverlet add-in, which I reached out to its maintainer, Romanex, today actually, and got positive confirmation from him that they will either be in a position to continue working on it, or they're looking to move it into Cake.Contrib organisation so that I or other folks can jump in to help with the maintenance of that add-in. So with all those things slotting into place, we should be in a position to get Cake.Recipe, the next version, out the door, which will support the 2.x version of Cake. So, all that being said, Cake.AppVeyor was the one that I had picked to work on. So I went and looked at this repository, and there was a lot of pull requests, specifically around dependencies being updated by Dependabot. So I got through all of those. I've now switched over to using Cake 2.x for the main portion of the build, or the compilation of the add-in. So that is in play. There's a couple of other PRs that I need to look at. One of them is from Jericho, because they asked whether the AppVeyor client could be made public. I had no objections to that, so I haven't looked at the PR yet, but I have no objections to that being done. And there was a couple of issues from, I believe they were Augusto, regarding making sure that the logo and things are using the right version of the logo. So there's a little bit of tidy up to be done. But one of the things I noticed, and I'm glad that Nils is in the chat room here, is that one of the things I noticed that there were some errors. No, there were some warnings popping up from the, let me get this right, from the Cake Community Guide, Cake-Contrib Guidelines package. Let me get that right. Let me open it up. So it's the Cake-Contrib Guidelines package. Yes. So there's a couple of warnings being thrown from there. Now the first one was with regard to the add-ins that were being used, or in this specifically, that weren't being used. So it was warning me that there wasn't a cake build tag being used, and there wasn't an add-in tag being used. Now, I think I'm right in saying that those tags are then used on NuGet.org to light up the different functionality within the NuGet section of a package. So if we go up to NuGet.org and we look at Cake.AppVeyor as an example, so one we've been looking at, then currently it's using not the recommended icon, so that's now fixed. But if we were to look at this one, then it is showing it. So it is aware of the fact that the Cake add-in is there. So it must just have been another suggested tag. Nils is saying he made them warnings to be polite, otherwise known as "please make this so." So I have added them. So let's actually take them out again. So if I undo the changes in that file, so we can see them flowing in. So it was just cake build and cake add-in. So grab that and let's revert that change. Then if we go back to Visual Studio, then we do a build. So we had 6 warnings. Now I think it goes up to 12. I think it was, and it's specifically around missing those tags. So if we ignore those ones for the minute, then it's saying cake-build is usage of tag cake-build is recommended. Usage of tag add-in is recommended, etc., etc. So if I add those back in again, if I've got my clipboard, then it's the cake-build and the add-in tags that are recommended. And if I build those again, it'll go back down to 6. Good. Okay, so one of the questions I had, Nils, was it's saying that I don't have a reference to StyleCop.analyzers, which I don't. Happy to add that in, but does the Cake-Contrib guidelines package come along with a suggested StyleCop.json as well? Or is that kind of left for the consumer project to maintain themselves? Or do we provide guidance, or more specifically, does Cake-Contrib organization provide guidelines on which rules to enable, etc.? And if so, where can I find said StyleCop.json? Okay, so it's left. So Nils in the chat room was saying it's left open. So I mean, I'm reasonably okay about most rules. There are some that I'm like, yeah, I need to fix that. But where's the starter for 10 then? Should I look at something like Cake.Gradle? Or where would be a good one to borrow one as a sample? And while asked that question, I'm going to go off and I'm going to submit, and I'm going to commit this one. I'm going to say maint add recommended tags to csproj file based on the suggestion from the Cake-Contrib. I'll get there. Got guidelines package. Made sure to use the recommended tags for add-in packages. Okay, so we'll do that. So I'm on the develop branch. So let's just commit that in. And the other thing I was going to do while I was here was the issue that, or one of the issues that Augusto had raised was around the icon. Now the icon is already taken care of, so that's one of the things that the Cake-Contrib.guidelines package does for us. And I've proven that to myself because I built the package earlier and I opened it up in NuGet Package Explorer, and I can see that it's got the bluish icon for the add-in. So I'm already happy that that icon is being done correctly. So I'm going to change this to be in the 6.0 milestone. And the other thing I'm going to do and be associated with that is if we go over here and go into here, then we'll see that there is a stray icon here, which was the original AppVeyor icon that Jonathan created when he created the add-in. So we've moved away from that. So I'm just going to remove that one from the repository because we don't need it. And there's another one in here that I found earlier, which was that icon, which was originally packed into the NuGet package and is not needed anymore. So I can delete that one as well. And because we're in the new CS proj format, that should have just flown through without any changes. So that should all succeed. And I'm going to commit this change against that issue that Augusto opened. So let's go ahead and stage those two. And we'll commit that against issue 50. So this is 50. I'm not on the right keyboard. So where can I get a quote from? Yeah, quote from. I'll get one. Nope, I won't. Quote from. It can't be this hard. Let's go back to here and let's grab it from here then. Copy. Paste 50. Remove old icons. The icon for the NuGet package is now handled by Cake-Contrib .guideline package. So we don't need to have icons directly checked to source control anymore. Okay, so we can do that. Sorry, Cody, I just saw your message from the top there. Yes, they are just warnings and they can be safely ignored until you flip on, which is what we're going to do in the Chocolate repositories at some point, is we're going to turn on the treat warnings as errors, and that day is coming soon. So that was that. And then Nils is also saying that Cake.ESLint might be a good example. So let's go up to Cake-Contrib, Cake.ESLint, and we'll take a look at that. And Nils is also saying, I vaguely remember that we discussed providing guidelines, but not sure where we left that discussion. I don't remember either. We should probably pick it up again at some point. Let's say that. So in source, I'm assuming there is both an editor.config and there's everything in here. So there's both an editor.config file, there's a .settings file, which I'm assuming is the resharper file, and then there is a StyleCop.json file. So let's take a look at all of these and have a quick squiz at them. So what have we got here? We've got specific words being added for a user dictionary and one for code style naming, C# naming abbreviations. Yes, okay, so I don't think we need any of those specifically for this add-in. They're all hinged on the ESLint add-in itself. So StyleCop.json has something in it, so we can steal that. And then the editor.config file has, what sort of suggestions has this one got? It's got lots. Okay, let's where to go? Let's just steal them. Let's do it. So let's do. I should be able to download this file, right? Where's the download button? I want to delete. Copy the contents. Edit, open. No, I want to download this file. I mean, I can be lazy, but I was sure that there was a download button. so confused. Hey Augusto, how's it going? Good to have you with us. We are just doing some additions, changes, updates to Cake.AppVeyor. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Well, I mean, that way works. So, I was sure there was a doubt. Oh, maybe it was a plugin or a Chrome add-in that I had that was giving me that button. GitHub, organizations, Cake-Contrib. We're in AppVeyor land at this point, and that was in the source folder. So let's put that in there, and let's make this on all files. And then if we go back and steal the StyleCop.json as well, I think there'll be some changes to that, but we can get that updated, and then that's going to be there. And now if we go back in here, the warnings hopefully will disappear, but they may be replaced by other ones. No, okay, so there is the next step, which I wonder whether we needed to do, which was we will, in our CS_proj file, I think, need to tell it that we're using that StyleCop.json. So we add an additional files to an item group. Now, why are they there specifically, though? Oh, we need to do this one as well, because Nils also suggested that the README should be packed into the NuGet package, so we need to do those things too. So let's grab those things anyway, and let's go into the CS_proj file. And then in here, let's have a look at what we've got in here. There's very little in here just now, so that's fine. So let's do an item group and an item group, and we'll stick those two things in there then. Oh, so Nils is saying that StyleCop itself expects that there's an additional files entry for the StyleCop.json. And that's fine. We can add that in. So now then, if we go in here, now we're down to 3. Now StyleCop itself isn't kicking in to use that JSON file because we haven't got the StyleCop.analyzers file in there yet. So now we should be able to do, I'm old school, let's do it this way. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to do StyleCop.analyzers. I spelled analyzers right. I did. And let's go ahead and install that one then. Now, I'm going to assume that Nils has only done that on the ESLint project. I'm going to go and confirm that. Or has he added it into the, he hasn't. Okay. So he hasn't added it into the testing project, which is fine. I wasn't going to do that either. Okay. Oh. Number of warnings has now changed just a smidgen. Yeah. It's gone up to 817 warnings. So now why did that EditorConfig file get not found? Did I save it in the wrong folder? No. It saved it with a .text file. I don't understand for why. And Corey is saying, ship it. Oh. Oh. There is an issue when you try and give it a name that it doesn't like. No, that's not the one I want it to be named. It's this one. Nope, that's not that one either. Try that one. There we go. Now, did I put that in the wrong place compared to where Nils had it? Just get that part right. So it's at the root and it's in there. So why did I put this one in there, put that one in there? Well, let's put them in the same place. Go. Notepad has a habit of adding a .text. I thought if you change the drop-down list to say all files, it would take what you gave it, but obviously that's not the case. So that was obviously either I misremembered something or from a different time. So solution directory.editor.config solution directory editor. Yeah, okay, fine. So that should be better there. Okay. So let's see if that makes things better or worse by putting things in the right place now. Beautiful. 1193 warnings. Okay, let's start. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it properly, right? So what sort of errors is it complaining about? It's complaining about a missing copyright header. Now there aren't copyright headers in here. So if I go and have a quick look at what Nils has done on his project, then if we look at this, then there's an MIT license associated to Nils. Now at the minute, I'm not sure if I want to add that in. So I'm not going to add that rule in just yet. And that's mainly because it's not there to date. I'm not going to add anything that wasn't there before, but I may come back and retrofit that. So that's being handled by this one, which is saying that documentation rules, company name must be copyright text. XML header, variables, year name. I'm going to say that I don't want to add that particular rule in just now. So if nothing else, that should reduce the number a smidge. So yeah, so Nils is basically saying what I think I've just said, which was regarding the copyright header. And I think we're on the same page there. That's fine. Now, I'm ever so slightly confused. Let me close some of these down a bit. Why is that coming up with a red X when ending add? It's also saying red X can't be found. Or is the red X telling me something different? I'm going to assume that that's Visual Studio, and I'm going to close it and reopen it. And then the other things I want to talk about before we get too distracted by this, I had a quick conversation with Nils at the weekend, and we spoke around kind of what are the best practices, or what are the other best practices in terms of a Cake add-in, and what do we look for to see that we're following those best practices. So there's a couple of things I want to go through to make sure that everyone's on the same page, because Nils gave me a list, and I want to go through that list and make sure that we are all talking about the same things. I saw it too, Corey. I didn't know that. But yeah, I double-clicked on the editor.config file, and it came up with this, which I don't think I was expecting, but it's got a nice search box here, and it's got different tabs for different settings. So that's good to know. And it's also picked up These are that's not what I was going to say. But yeah, it's there. So Nils is saying, nice, question mark. Have a look at how Rider does that. I don't know if I've got Rider installed. I know I've got IntelliJ IDEA. I don't know if I've got Rider on this box. But what I was going to say was, why was it showing up? And now it stopped doing it. No, it's still doing it. Why is it showing up Cake.AppVeyor.tests? Because I only added StyleCop analyzers to the Cake.AppVeyor project. So why is it coming up with suggestions on here? I wouldn't have expected that. Is that something I can turn off? And if so, how? I'll maybe wait for a response on that one. Because I don't necessarily want... Oh no, that's an IDE check. That's not StyleCop. That is just a general warning. But I also think it makes sense. So I'm going to correct that one. Fairly sure I did. Oh, but now that you say that, no, fairly sure I only added it to one. But I can check that. Yeah, no, because I right-clicked and manage packages on the project. But I can confirm that by looking at the analyzer here, and it's only installed on Cake.AppVeyor. I'm also talking myself out of it being StyleCop because this is an IDE error. So I wonder if that's EditorConfig file kicking in at that point. But anyway, I tend to agree with it. So I'm going to say that these make sense to have them added. But we'll wait and see. So that number seems to be getting worse as I'm making these changes. Number of IDE warnings. That's a const. Yeah, so I agree. So where do we start? So this is the kind of thing that I agree with. And what I want to do is I want to fix the spacing, but I also want to fix the spacing everywhere. And that's dangerous. But let's do it anyway. Sure. Okay. Let's see what that does. That's taking us down to few less. That's good. And let's pick up code should not contain. I agree with that one too. So I'm going to say that we need to fix that. And we need to remove blank lines. And we're going to do that on the solution. Lovely. Do it. Makes sense to me. This one, element should be, yes, I agree with that one too. Insert blank line, yes please. Solution. Lovely. What are you complaining about? Document text should end with a period. It might not. All this. Oh, is there? It should end with a period, but there's not much. The documentation isn't great there. But we'll fix that problem and we'll come back to the actual potential lack of documentation in a bit. Code should not contain blank lines at the end of a file. I think we as a team decided that we should have a blank line, but I'm okay with applying the suggestions. Oh no, there is one at the end there, so it's kept the one at the end, so that's good. Okay. Oh, we're cooking with gas here. Down to 412 warnings. We are cooking with gas. Some of them are about documentation, so we're going to come back to the documentation. The file header is missing or not located at the top of a file. So this is the one regarding the file header. So I want to take that rule off. So file header is missing. So I'm going to say that we are going to suppress that one, and we're going to add it. Now, where's it going to put that? Oh no, in here. Configure severity for all. That looks like it's putting it into the editor.config file. Is that where it's going to put it? Yeah, that looks like it's going to put it into the editor.config file, which I'm okay with, but is that not where, should it not go into this StyleCop.json file? So let me see what happens then. So if I do this and I say I want to suppress or configure, I want to configure, I want to suppress it, I want to suppress it in, no, I don't want to suppress it in there. It's this one. I want to say none for this one. Let's do this one. I think that did it. Oh, did something. So using statements should be ordered alphabetically. I also agree with that. So I'm going to say that this one is going to be reorder using statements, and I'm going to do that at the solution level. Yes, do it. Beautiful. What did I do? What did I do? What did I suppress? I suppressed too much. What did I do then? Did it add something to the end then? Was it here? This one. Oh, because it's doing it for every rule? Oh, well, okay, let's take that one out again. Take that out again then. Oh, it's not going to let me do it there. Let's serve me out for not reading it properly. So let's do this. Let's take this out then. If I build again, that should be warning me again about that. Check the editor file. You suppressed all the documentation rule. No, I think I've taken it out again. So if I do this then, and I say, because I thought I configured severity, I don't think I suppressed it. I thought I clicked that one. So configure severity for all you're saying is too much. Oh, so it should be this one. This one as none. Is that what we're saying? Yes, you need the second from the top, something like blah blah equals done. Right, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, fine, I'll put that one back in. Fuel Snable is saying, I order using autobiographical in order I learned about them in the in the order I learned about them in the first place. So I'm an old school person on this one. So I've always been and we didn't debate it. We had a discussion about this within the team recently, and what we came to was we'll have the system using statements in there by default. They're at the top and they're ordered alphabetically, and then anything else is then ordered alphabetically after all the systems. Now, it gets a little bit muddied there with regard to what do you do with the newer Microsoft namespaces. And it's a good question. What do you do with the Microsoft one? So again, what we came to, the system one's at the top, and then anything else underneath the system one's ordered alphabetically. Now, as you're saying, yeah, you could put all the using in a global using file. You could do that, certainly with the top level global using statements. Absolutely, you could do that. The programming person, that's week under the dog. I like that. I like that a lot. File name should match the first type name. I don't disagree with that. So where is that not being applied? So it's just aliases. Come back to that one. Braces for multi-line statements should not share line. I agree with that. So I'm going to suggest that we should fix that. And that fix, I'm assuming, is to drop it onto the next line, which it is. And I'm going to say fix formatting and align braces. It's the same thing. So let's fix the formatting at the solution level. Yes. Do it. Ooh, now it did that. Why did I'm not sure if that did something I don't necessarily like. It added a space into. I should have checked that before I did it. But come back to that one. Use trailing comma in multi-line initializers. Yes, I've found myself falling prey to that having a problem. So I'm okay with that being there, yes. Because yes. So that's that. Brace should not be omitted. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I don't like single line of statements. So I'm going to put that in there. Absolutely. And we're going to do that there. Yes. Love it. Where are we going next? Elements should be documented. Ooh, before I do all this, I should maybe have pulled in what Jericho did with regard to. StyleCop has a setting for the blank lines between using groups. So is that in the StyleCop.json? Oh, you've got allow in there. I'm not sure if I like that one. Might have to switch that off. Might have to switch that off. Can I get you to? Could I ask that you Slack me that, Nils, if you're on Slack? I can't get it out of Twitch. Well, I'm not in Twitch, but I can see the comments, but I'm not in Twitch as such. So I'll wait for a message to hopefully come through. Thank you. and just looking at this, using statements outside the namespace, which makes sense to me as well. That's this. Let's bring this in so that folks can see it as well. Let's do this. So it is using directives, and then it is blank lines between groups. The blank lines between groups using groups property affects the behavior of the following rules, which report the absence or so then the property has 3 allowed values, which are allow, require, or omit. I think I want omit. Hey Jericho. So I was just saying that the PR that you put in, I haven't actually reviewed your PR yet, but I'm just wondering whether we should do this first before we do anything else. So let's just actually look to see what you've done. You have added public to the different items, but you haven't split out the files. So the thing that StyleCop is now complaining about is saying that they should be split into separate files, which I think I agree with as well. But it's also going to. So let's do this then. Let's do this. Okay, I'm going to say that I'm going to stash some of this because git stash everything basically. Git stash apply. It's obviously forgotten something. So what did it not like? It didn't like the 2 new files. So let's add those 2 new files in. And then we'll do this. And then we'll do git stash. Okay, go. So, no, I'm going to go back. So I'm going to stop because I feel I'm getting drawn into the StyleCop pit. And I want to take a step back and make sure that we're getting to some of the other things I wanted to discuss tonight before we get dragged into it. So let's go back and check the open issues. So this one I fixed because, so let's go back to here. So let's do git push upstream. I fixed the suggestion that came from Augusto, which was to add the icon in. So that should now have a commit associated with it, which it does, and I'll go ahead and close that issue. The other issue was with regard to the README, which was update the Cake.AppVeyor README to add a link to the GitHub Discussions. We started using GitHub Discussions as the preferred communication channel moving forward instead of Gitter because it makes it easier to keep track of discussions in a structured way. As such, we're recommending that admin maintainers update links to Gitter to point to GitHub Discussions. I think that makes absolute sense. I'm going to copy that suggestion from Augusto, and I'm going to put this into the README here. So we've got aliases and we've got Cake.AppVeyor. So let's put this at the bottom then. For questions and to discuss ideas and features and questions, use the GitHub Discussions on the Cake GitHub repository under extension, join the discussion for the, now hold on, why is that for, is that for the add-in itself? For questions and or to discuss ideas and feature requests, use the GitHub Discussions on the Cake GitHub repository. Oh, under the extension Q&A question category. Okay, I see. I read that properly. Join the discussion in the Cake repository. I'm fine with that. Okay, so I'm going to do a commit against 49 to add that in then. So let's grab this. And we'll put this into here. So this will be just the README now in here. And we'll paste that in and say add link to Github Discussions. Enough for that. Okay, there's a few things in this that's going to annoy me, so I'm going to go and fix them up just now because Markdown lint is kicking in with some suggestions for the Markdown. So let's just fix those up. And then ooh, that's a good idea. Yes, you're absolutely right. So the suggestion from Nils there is that single commit that we're away to do, which is basically adding StyleCop, fixing all the suggested errors, etc., that should go into a special Git file that then will mean it doesn't show up in any of the history of the file. Now, you might add to why do you care about that? Because when you're looking at history, it can be hard enough knowing what's changed and why, without having to reason about, oh, this file got moved to here, or we just did some formatting changes, or we've just added some public modifiers, as an example. So by adding the commit that you've done to a specific file, you can say to Git and certain Git user interfaces, I don't want to see this in the history when I look at a blame or whether I look at the specific history of a file. That commit won't show up. And it'll basically just say that as though it didn't exist, which makes it easier to reason about the history of a file. Set of aliases for it doesn't like bare URLs, so I could do this, I think. And then this one, what does not like about that? Emphasis should be consistent. Expecting asterisks rather than underscore. What's the quick fix? What's the suggestion here then? Control plus dot. Fix this violation. Sure. Sure. I've got no objections to that. This one wants. Well, let's just do this as the Apache Foundation. Do that. Beautiful. Okay. Now, I did have a question over this because ci.appveyor.com, I think the build over there is broken. Oh, I've stopped, Nils. I haven't done anything. What am I doing? What am I doing wrong? There's something wrong. Nils is shouting at me. I'll wait for him to come back. The .NET Core restore. Oh, I know why that's failing. Come back to that. The link text is garbled now. The link text is garbled. Oh, so it is. Apologies. The Software Foundation. That better? I did put that. Good catch. And then I think this wants an extra line at the bottom. Beautiful. Now, I might have to come back and confirm these numbers. Maybe just do that while I'm here. What version of Newtonsoft does this currently use? That's a test. That won't help me. Dependencies. Let's just do this one. Packages. Now let's just see what. Why 4658 is for this one? Why is it the instructions telling me to take in Newtonsoft? Newtonsoft. In there, using Newtonsoft.json. Why can't I? Why is why don't I see the package? So confused. Newton's. It's being brought in by. I haven't got an explicit reference to newtonsoft.json. Is that because it's being brought in by a transitive dependency from Cake itself? And if so, what version is Cake currently using? But I thought I could follow the project references to show me what it was bringing in. What am I missing? Because, no, hold on. No. There. It's there. Why does that not show me that under here? Because it's not used in .NET Core 3.1? I'm so confused. But it does seem to be 11.0.2. So that value hasn't changed. So I can leave that as is. So let's do another commit, which is this one then. So this is here, maint fix markdown lint warnings. Okay, but then going back, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but going back to ESLint, if we look at what was being done in the csproj file again, we saw an example where Nils was hacking the README into the NuGet package. So I think I want to do that too. So if I go to the item group that I created over here, and I look to add in. Oh, I've now taken it out again because it's in the other one. So let's recreate my item group, and then item group. That's not going to work. Item group, and let's put this one in to start with, and then that's project dir up a level, readme.md. So I think that will find it. We've got it there, and then if we build that. So that's what I was confused about, Nils, because I thought that was the case, and I'm confused. So I'm sort of glad that I'm not the only one that's confused. And if I go back over here and reopen that package that has. Oh, I'll need to do a build to get it to put it into there again. So let's do a build, make sure we haven't broken anything. I know I've got it here somewhere. There we go. And then I'm going to come back to the list, I think, Nils, just to make sure that we've got everything. So that's that build. Cool. Oh, that's because I've got it open over here. Let's close that down then. Should be enough. Build. So that's us back to having the warning about not having StyleCop analyzers in play. But that's what I've got in my stash, and I can go back to that later. Now let's get it tidied up, and we'll see how much time I've got left at the end of the evening. Okay, so then if we go to my build, which is here, artifacts, packages, NuGet, and we look at this guy, that won't have what I want. So let's do NuGet package explorer, open a local package, which is this one. So I now look in here, it's now got the README in there, and that README contains stuff. Beautiful. Okay. So that there wasn't an issue for that, but it is a recommendation. So I'm just going to do this as a. Where did it get that editor.config file from? Reset that just now. Here we've got a maintenance commit add README to NuGet package to allow this to show on NuGet.org once the package is published. Okay. Go ahead and commit that. Yes. Okay, and then I'm going to start going through the list. So git push upstream, git push origin. Okay, so the list of suggestions that Nils came up with is suggesting that we have both main stroke master stroke development branches exist, and develop is the default. So we have that, but let's just sanity check that as we're going through this so that everyone's aware of what we're talking about. So Cake.AppVeyor has, oh hold on, I'm being shouted at again. What did I do this time, Nils? Oh, I do. Hold on, did I miss that from? Hold on. Back and have a look. I obviously missed it. Cake.ESLint. Did I miss that? So Nils is saying that over on here, there's another one that is README. So that's the one I added. There's a package README file. Look at that. There's maybe a couple of extra things in here that I don't have as well. We should maybe go through some of these. So, authors, copyright. We don't have a copyright section in here. It does help if I could spell it. Okay, doesn't have a copyright. It'll have a description as a description. Package icon URL. Package icon URL, package license expression, package license is Apache 2, package project URL, yeah, package tags, it has that, repository URL, doesn't have a repository, oh it does, sorry, it does, package release notes, I think that's a new one on me, package release notes, and we've got that pointing at tag and then the version. Okay, I'm going to grab both of those then. And I'm going to fix the one that is needs to be fixed. GitHub.com, Cake-Contrib, Cake.AppVeyor, releases tag and then the version. And I'm going to assume that the version is going to be 6.0.0, and that's what we'll tag it with. Gotcha. So what Nils is saying there is that it is packed inside the nutkeg, but it won't show up on NuGet until this package README file is included. That's okay. Okay, now we are missing the copyright tag. So that brings up the question of what is it currently saying that the copyright of this thing is. So it's also got cake.json listed there. Why has it got cake.json in the README? Apache cake.json copyright 2016. That feels wrong. I feel that should be Cake.AppVeyor. That in there. Okay, let's fix that up. There's a see the problem I have with putting the closing one in there, Nils, is having to remember to go and fix it up. I'm lazy. So I'm going to leave it. If I was going to put a closing one on, I'd be inclined to do something like 2016-present, so it kind of keeps it up to date by itself. But anyone else in the chat have answer for Fuel Snable? Is there a Swagger to C# library that allows me to cherry pick what I want generated? I use nswag today and I think it's pretty good, but the C# files are quite big. I don't have an answer for that. I don't. Maint correct name of project. So we went from cake.json to Cake.AppVeyor. And I'll do this, which is to ensure README is shown NuGet.org. Simply packing the into the NuGet into the nutkeg. Nutkeg isn't enough. We also need to add the additional attribute to the CS_proj file. Fine. Okay, beautiful. Okay, push upstream. So I think Jericho can catch up if he is rebasing. I'll push again. Sorry, Jericho. So going back to this, we said we have a develop branch and we have a master branch. We do. We have both of those, and develop is the default. So we've done that. Branch protection rules are in place. So the suggestion that Nils has put forward is that there should be branch protection rules in play. So the question then is, which branch protection rules are we talking about? Now, I can't remember what's on this page, so I'm going to take this away until I confirm to myself what's in there. But if I go into branches and I look at develop, then currently I have branch protection rules on there that, thank you, Jericho. I've got to require a pull request before merging. I've got required approvals, and then require review from code owners. Require status checks to pass before merging, and those status checks are on the build on both macOS, Windows, and Ubuntu. Require conversation resolution before merging. So those seem fairly applicable. It would be good to have it would be good to document that guideline somewhere, perhaps. Nils, would that make sense on the Cake-Contrib home repository at some point? So again, just that we're on the same page. But I think we've got a lot of those in play. The next one is that Cake.recipe is in use and is up to date. So Cake.recipe is currently at 221, and we're working on getting to the next one, because we go up to here and I remind myself about what's currently in play. So the latest version of Cake.recipe is 3.0.1, and we don't have that yet, but we probably should build with 3.3.0.1 as a part of this. But before we do that, let's maybe go and look at Jericho's PR. While I think he's in a position, he's just rebased. So let's actually review this properly and take this for a spin. So what we've done is we've added public to the static class, fine. And then we've added it to the public interface. And then we've added public to the AppVeyor build request mass commit. No objections there. And then public for that, and then public for those. Yeah, it just means that they're a little bit more reusable, so that we're not defining them in multiple places. I have no objections to that. So let's do this then. And let's get this merged in once that builds have finished. So let's go to this one, go to the issue, and assign the issue to the milestone, which is going to be this one. And then back over here, we should be able to say enable auto merge, and we will confirm the auto merge, and that should automatically be merged once those builds complete successfully. That's that. And then this one's also closed off as well, because we added the suggestion from Augusto, so that can be closed, and that can be added to the 6.0.0 milestone 2. Okay, and that'll get closed, or we'll close it once that PR is merged. And then this one was one that I had looked at, or I'd at least thought about. But if we do git fetch upstream, I won't have done it yet, so getting a little bit ahead of myself. I need to slow down a little bit. But we were at the point where, let's go through the list. So we need to update Cake.recipe. So we need to come back and update to the latest Cake.recipe. Cake.tool is in use as the next suggestion. I don't know if it is or not. Let's have a look. So looking at the build.ps1, yes, it's already using the Cake.tool. The global.net tool version of Cake is already in play. Dependabot or renovate is in use. So Dependabot is in use, and we have the dependabot.cake.yaml file in play. So updating of the cake things via Dependabot is in play. So that's there also. The disadvantage of that is that it can make some wrong decisions sometimes, as opposed to letting Cake.Addin Discoverer do it, but that's a known problem. CodeQL is set up. There is a workflow for CodeQL, which there is. Builds and releases in GitHub Actions. So there's definitely a build for GitHub Actions. That is definitely in play. There is an AppVeyor build, but it doesn't currently seem to be, or it's not currently one of the status check requirements for the merge. So we may want to remove that build, maybe another day. Git Release Manager configuration is set up. It is. So Git Release Manager has a YAML file in play, which is here, which is good. Cake.Contrib and Cake-Contrib.guidelines and Cake.Addin.analyzer are in use. So we saw both of those packages in play. If we go up here, we'll see that there is a Cake-Contrib.guidelines and Cake.Addin.analyzer in play. Deterministic build is set up. I forget how we check for that, but I believe it is. So how do we make sure that that's the case? It can only be a deterministic build once it's built on the CI server, I think. But there was something. It's this one. Yeah, it was the addition of this directory.build.targets is what's responsible for making sure that all the things are set up to create a deterministic package. And that was configured by Cake.recipe itself. There's a task that you can run within Cake.recipe that turns that on. So I think we're good there. Target correct Cake version. In really old cases, we ship a. So basically, what we're saying there is that in the CS Podge file that we are targeting the latest version of Cake. So previously, before this work started on Cake.AppVeyor, this was looking at a 1.0 release of Cake. So I bumped that to 2.0, meaning that we're at the latest version. And I also had to change the target frameworks because there was also a Net 461 target in there. So that got removed because it's not supported by Cake anymore. Hence why I've made it a breaking change release to 6.0.0. So yes, we're doing that. Now the last one here that you've got in the list, Nils, well, there's two more. One is the README is packed in the nupkeg, so we've done that as part of the changes that we've done here. The final one that you mentioned is that the CLA assistant is set up. How would I confirm that? Now I know we've got that for Cake, but I don't think we've got that for Cake-Contrib. Or have I forgotten something that I need to remember about? So I'm going to wait for a response on that one and then come back to it in a bit. Okay, so it did close off that issue because the merge happened, so that's good. And this one was with regard to, we'll do this one. This. So there's a secure token here for the AppVeyor API token. I don't think we want that in here, and we should leave that to be configured in the AppVeyor UI if we need it. So I'm going to delete that and leave what we've got here instead. I see. So Augusto, so Nils is saying in the chat room that he's copied that. So having CLA assistant set up is something that he has borrowed from Augusto, because Augusto has got that set up for all of his things. So if we were to look at an add-in that Augusto is in charge of, trying to think of one off the top of my head, Cake dot, what's one of Augusto's ones? Minver, good example. Thanks, Augusto. So if we look at Cake.Minver, then he's got lots of stuff in here. Give it a star, getting started, I love it. I'm assuming then that there's a contributing, or how would I know that this project has a CLA associated with it? check one of the, well, that's a good idea. If we go to PR and we look at could I use Simon's one maybe? Let's use Simon's one. Snapshot testing is something I'm intrigued by as well. Where do I see the checks on? Well, maybe it's not there. Okay, maybe I should have started there. Does Cake.AppVeyor have CLA set up? And if it does, how do I confirm? So here, view details. It is, okay. All requirements are met from the license CLA. So how have you set that up, Augusto? Have you set that up under your own, or have you created a CLA assistant specifically for Cake-Contrib? So set up using their UI. Okay. And it's your own. Okay, fine. So and that's fine because Cake.AppVeyor is essentially your project. It's housed within the Cake-Contrib organization, but it's still driven and run by you, so that's perfectly fine. So I don't think I'm going to add it into Cake.AppVeyor just now, but it's something we might want to revisit as an organization at some point. But for now, I think I'll leave it the way it is. I do like your README though. I've got README envy at this point. I might want to come back and revisit this at some point. Anyway, the next one that I was going to look at was AppVeyor build images. That needs to change, I think, to be the next one. Yeah. So we'll do two separate commits here. So the first one here is going to be against the issue that is number 8. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to put this into here. I'm going to say that move token from AppVeyor if this is required. We will configure this through the AppVeyor UI rather than directly within the .appveyor.yaml. Okay. And because I am now targeting different net frameworks, I need to bump to the latest image. And that's why the AppVeyor build is currently failing. So let's do this, and we'll do this as a build commit. Bump to latest build image so that we can compile against the specified target frameworks. Okay, cool. But now I've just done what I was not meant to do before. So we want to get rebase against upstream develop. Get push upstream. Get push origin. Beautiful. Okay, so that should hopefully fix the AppVeyor build, the failing AppVeyor build. So I've got that open on my machine over here. So I'll keep an eye on that. And with that done, if I refresh this, then that's got a commit against it, and I can assign that to myself. I'll make that a build related change, and I'll add that in this milestone. So that should mean that there is, I should have closed that as well. So there's no more open issues. We've been through the list of changes that Nils / Augusto has suggested for best practices. The open pull request that remains is for bumping refit to 4.x to 6.x, at failing for some reason. So I'm less inclined to pull that one in just now and leave it the way it is. So what that leaves then is the reapplying of the StyleCop changes. So for the last remaining 38 or so minutes, I think I was going to go back and reapply some StyleCop changes to Cake.AppVeyor, ready to ship a new version. So anything else that needs to be done before I start thinking about doing that, or have I remembered everything that needs to be done? I'll halt there just for a second while I check some other messages, and I'll wait and see if the AppVeyor build passes as well while I'm waiting. Cool. Okay, so the build is looking like it's getting further, which is good. Maybe we should have just had it open while we're here. So Cake.AppVeyor is currently building, and it was failing reasonably early in the process before this. Now, getting further through. I think it's going to work. Come on. It's so close. Always takes ages when you're waiting at it. But to recap, where we're getting to, or where we're trying to get to, is recently shipped a new version of Cake.Recipe, which targets Cake 1.3. We want to get to the next point where Cake.Recipe supports 2.x. So one of the add-ins that we use within Cake.Recipe is Cake.AppVeyor, and it itself doesn't support Cake 2.0. So we need to get that updated, which is what we're currently working on. And then once Cake.AppVeyor is shipped, I can then come back and do Cake.Transifex using the same kind of bullet point of do this, do this, do this, do this. And then these three up here have more history associated with them. One thing that, if Jericho, if you're still around, there was one other thing I was going to speak to you about. Let me find out where the thing is I want to talk to you about. Let's see here. Yeah. Here. One of the dependencies that Cake.recipe has is on the Cake.issues.recipe, so the suite of packages that Pascal maintains. That's not one of the items that appeared in the issue that Cake.Addin Discoverer was, or the Cake.Addin Discoverer made. Is that something that we can add into the Addin Discoverer so that it knows when the newer version of Cake.issues.recipe, which Pascal is actively working on, is available to be brought in to Cake.recipe? Or, because I'm assuming it's different because it's using a load rather than an add-in. But would it be possible to have it also look for that too, so that in future versions we know when everything is ready? Cool, thank you for that, Augusto. I will definitely take a look at that. Yes. Sweet. I'll take a look. I'll leave that as unread just now, but I'll come back to it. Right, so Jericho is saying, I'm almost certain it's being ignored because it's imported with the load. Yes. The CLA system.io is the one that I've used previously, yes. So, yeah, I mean, it's not. I may add that for, like you, I may add that for some of, quote unquote, my add-ins, but Reddith is still kind of the owner, if you like, of Cake.AppVeyor, so I'm less inclined to add the CLA without having a conversation with them about adding it in. But for now, it's good to know that it's there and it is working. So I'm going to leave that here on this one. I can certainly look into adding load as an acceptable way to reference an add-in as far as discoverers. That would be great. I mean, it's, like I say, we've got 99% of the checks now for in terms of what Cake.recipe needs to go to the next version. So it would be good to kind of just put a tick in the box to say that the Cake.issues.recipe is also included in that check. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to attempt to unstash the changes that I did before. Now this is going to cause conflict. I thought it was going to cause a conflict, but it didn't. Okay. I thought that was going to cause a conflict because of the changes to the CS.proj file, but obviously it didn't. Oh, itchy eye. So let's see where it got to then. Oh, a bunch of stuff broke. I'm not convinced that that did what it said it was going to do. There are unresolved merge conflicts. Why was that? Oh, here we go. Both modified. Merge dual. Fine. What we want is, yeah, it got it completely wrong, didn't it? So for this add-in, No, it's included them both, which is not really the way I wanted to do it. So let's do this. And let's do that. And then it's added the analyzers. Fine, okay. So let's do that. And then this should hopefully now be saying not. And then this should now be saying it's ready to build. Build succeeded. Okay. Somebody's lying. Because one of them is saying 11 errors. And the other is saying which one do you believe? Okay. I'm going to close Visual Studio again. And I'm going to reopen it. Open recent app there. Build, build, build. Okay. Thank you for confirming that, Jericho. I was going to say, now I don't believe that this has only got... Yeah. Now I thought I... Okay, I'll need to re-exclude that one. I want to configure the severity of that to be none. Okay. So the missing XML ones I'm going to ignore just now because that's something that we just need to fix, and that's a documentation effort. So let's just ignore CS1591 just now. Can I hit page down here? Yep. That one we spoke about. Return value should be documented. Documentation. Const field name should begin with an uppercase letter. I think I tend to agree with that. Fix violations. Yes. I want to fix that. Okay. And then it's saying, and then this wants to be a private, I think. And then element should be documented. An interface should not follow a class. So yes, I agree with that. So this was located within here. So I think we need to create another file here. So I'm going to do this as a refactoring, hopefully. Move type to, yes, that's exactly what I want to do. Go. And I want this one to do the same. Quick actions. Move type to yes. Exactly what I want to do. So the load preprocessor, so there's a question from Jericho in the chat about the load preprocessor directive. the load preprocessor directive can load a NuGet package, and then from that NuGet package, it will find all of the .cake files that are contained within it. So you'll see that in action on the recipe.cake file. So here we're using the load preprocessor directive to load up the cake.recipe package, which is a NuGet package that's referenced currently at version 2.2.1. So it's the exact same thing for the load of the cake.issues.recipe package. So it is a NuGet package. It will grab the specified version number and then it will load all the contained .cake files within that NuGet package into the current cake execution. So that was this one. I think we need to make that one public. And the interface was already public because of the work that Jericho did. Thought we had, I didn't do that one, did I? That was in this one, and it was not allow, it was omit, is what I wanted that to be. So I wonder if that will then cause a warning. I think it is. Using directives, yes. So I want to fix that by removing the blank line and removing it across the solution. Beautiful. Okay. Constructor should not follow a property. Agreed. That in there like that. XML comment. Fine. Lots of things about elements needing to be documented. Code could not, absolutely it shouldn't. So that's fix across. Yes, remove them. Just the one, fine. Okay. This namespace contains types representing data used for interaction with AppVeyor's REST API. Is there any reason that that can't be namespaces similar to the file name? Would that break anything? I don't think it does. I mean break anything in terms of where have I done that? I think we do that on the Twitter one. Do we? Maybe not. Nope, do it somewhere. Not gonna work, is it? Oh, it is there. Where was that? That was on the bit differ. Oh. And they've added check namespaces here. Namespace. Is that something that we recommend? I forget how we recommend that we do this. Nils is saying, I think it's our convention to use a file called namespaces.cs for all namespace docs. Namespaces. You see? Namespaces aren't documentable by default in the XML file format. Cake solves this by having a special internal class for each namespace called namespace.doc, which are documented using the summary tag. The convention is to place all of these namespaces, all of these classes, in common namespaces.cs file per. Okay, so that we can't fix that. Okay, so that's our rules. So in which case I need to suppress or configure issues. Suppress that. Indeed, thank you Pascal for the documentation. Yes. So I don't know if I want to suppress it everywhere. I think I want to suppress it just in the source file. Or do I want it as an attribute? Do I want it as an attribute, in a suppression file, or in source? I've never been a fan of the pragmas. I'm more inclined to have it as an attribute. I think I prefer that one. Thoughts? I think I prefer that one rather than the pragma. And my justification is going to be that Pascal told me to. Copy. This is as per the documentation on the cakebuild.net website. That's true. I also prefer the justification being added so that I remember why I did it later. So I'm inclined to go with that at the minute. I'm hoping that some of these are just duplicates because of the fact that it is building for multiple types, multiple target frameworks. Now this one, @var aliases as the class name makes sense. So why would this be called anything other? I don't think that makes sense. So if this is going to allow me, I'm going to rename the file. Rename file, yes. Oh, it didn't like that. What's it done there? Why did it do that? Why did it create 1 and 2? I don't think I want 1 and 2. Yeah. Not sure what happened there. Okay. Closing brace should indeed not be preceded by a blank line. Let's fix that one. Do it. It's the one, fine. Lots of elements should be documented. Lots of return values should be documented. That's a const, so that should really be fine. This is the same. Fine. It doesn't like the underscore. Now, what does it want me to change that to? I quite like the underscore for private member variables. This is a read-only one. So its suggestion is for it to just be argument. Oh no, we don't want this dot. No, 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 no. No. Why would we want this dot? No, I don't like that. I don't think I agree with you here, Nils, with your default StyleCop settings. Fight me. Oh, again, that's not StyleCop. That is something in the EditorConfig file. So again, do we suppress this one? Is that a none? I'll wait for a response on that one before I hit the button. I think I'm right. I'm going to hover over this button. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to try that again. Okay. Accessibility. Private const. Private static. Okay. So what's left is lots of elements should be documented. Return value should be documented. Lots of elements should be documented. Then we've got return value should be documented, and then missing XML. If these are all CS1591s, they were, elements should be documented. And then return value should be documented. Missing XML comments. Okay. So, with that done, that is all of the StyleCop warnings fixed, with the exception of the documentation ones, the important ones. So, as an example, this thing here should have, if we come up here and see what it says, I would have expected that to be able to show potential fixes. Generate constructor, no, no, no. Ah. If I come up here and do, it should tell me this is a class. And then that goes away. Beautiful. Missing XML comment for this one too. Yes. This is a property. Properties documentation should be, yes, okay. That's the standard. Gets or sets the property. Yeah, okay. So at some point I need to run through all of these and document the stuff. I'm not going to do that on tonight's stream, I don't think. What I am going to do is I'm going to do a sanity check of the changes that have gone in for this PR, and if it all makes sense, then I will get the Git file created that ignores the commit. So I'm just going to remind myself the exact name of what that is. So let's do a quick review of the changes that have gone into this, and we'll decide. Actually, let's just get all of these put in. So let's do this. Let's add those in with those. Yes, okay. Well, actually, let's do this. Let's unstage all of those. Right, and we'll do here. We will add in that file and that file, and we'll do this as a maint add StyleCop and EditorConfig files. These will be used as the basis for styling and formatting rules for the projects going forward. I'm still on the develop branch, I think, so that's fine. Let's do that. And then let's have a look at the CSproj file here. Additional files, yep. The rest are all edits and changes. Add style cop dot analyze. Get there. Package. Okay, and then let's have a quick sanity check of the 27 files that have changed. So in here, we've added modifiers. We've removed some white space, lots of white space. Lots of white space changes. That looks just like a formatting, bumping everything along, making it consistent. Okay. Keys, we added the private and spacing, bumped it to the next line. Aliases was changed to @Veyor aliases. @Veyor client, we've we've ordered the using statements. Private to added the private, changed some spacing. We extracted the @Veyor API to its own interface. We extracted this to its own class. So that's why we added that file and added that file. @Veyor settings, it was missing a period and it had an extra space. Missing a period, added spacing to be consistent. Remove some spacing. And what happened there? Oh, it's spacing there, I see it. Okay. Spacing. Period and added line. Same on that file. Same on that file. Yep. Period and spacing and period. Spaces. Yep. period spaces, period spaces, period spaces, and then move a white space in the property names, and then we added the attribute, move the white space, and move the extra line from the top. Okay, so we're going to do int applied StyleCop stroke editor config suggestions. We have left all the documentation warnings in place for now. This will be done as another commit. This commit is purely about changes to style and formatting without any changes in functionality. This will be ignored via the .git blame ignore refs file going forward. Whoa. There. Really didn't like that. I really didn't like that. Why is that red? Cut, paste. There we go. We have left all the documentations were in place for now. It's completely messed that up. We have left all the documentation and warning in place for now. That's annoying. Go on, what I did. This commit is purely about changes to style and format without any changes to functionality. Right, fine. This commit will be ignored going forward. Yeah, I think that makes sense now. We have left all the documentation warnings in place for now. This will be done as another commit. This commit will be this commit will be perfect. Okay, fine. So we commit that. Then we come in here and we're going to create a file in the root repository called that, and then I'm going to add in copy to clipboard the SHA, and then in here I'm going to put that, and then in here I'm going to put this, and then I'm going to grab one of these and I'm going to put that in there. Beautiful. So that what that should mean, hopefully, is that this SHA will be ignored in the git blame or the git view history of a file, so that we know that this was just a formatting change and we don't need to worry about the actual contents of the change. Let's do this as a quick commit, and then that's me done for the night, I think. Let's do that. Create, git, blame, or refs file to allow ignoring of commits where only formatting type changes have been applied. Okay, cool. Right, that's that done. Git push upstream. Git push origin. Right, for now, that's what I've done. So in terms of a recap, what we've been looking at tonight is getting Cake.AppVeyor updated, ready for shipping a new version. That new version will be a version of Cake.AppVeyor that targets Cake 2.0. Along the way, we pulled in a couple of PRs from the likes of Jericho, and we went through some of the other open issues that were remaining on the Cake.AppVeyor repository and got those fixed up. We went through a list of kind of best practices from both Nils and Augusto and made sure that Cake.AppVeyor is following those. What's left is a bunch of StyleCop errors with regard to documentation of public properties and return values. So rather than do that on the stream, I'll probably do that as a standalone effort out with that. But what's left is a quick test that the Cake.AppVeyor add-in is working or continues to work with the latest Cake. And if that does, then I'll be in a position to ship this next version, which gets me one step closer to having a version or all the bits in play for Cake.Recipe. So again, let's just bring this up while we're here. So in the issues, there's a list of all the ones we need to support. So Cake.AppVeyor is one of them, and then Cake.Transifex is the next one I'm going to work on. And then there's 3 at the top here that there's more discussion involved. It's exactly how it's going to work. But moving down that road in terms of getting ready to support 2.0 of Cake within Cake.Recipe. So yeah, getting there. That's all I've got time for tonight, though. I appreciate everyone who was hanging out in the chat. It's always good to speak to you. I hope you all have a good remainder of the evening, and yeah, hopefully see you all next week. Starting to get back into a bit of a routine with this now that I've kind of focused on what needs to be done rather than trying to jump around all over the place. So yeah, good to be back. Appreciate it as always. But for now, we'll talk to you all later. Thank you very much.